Uh, work this morning.
Is it not showing up on your screen, Dion?
Oh, there we go. Okay, no, it was like freezing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, we're live now. Okay, so.
Yay.
Hey.
Okay, good morning, everyone. How are we doing today?
Great.
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. We are
Great.
here live on
Sunday, guys.
YouTube. Let me just make sure we got the right view. All right. Okay, and I just want to make sure that we have everybody in
Is it not
view.
showing up on your screen, Dion?
Yeah, oh, I've got the live.
There
Just
we
want to
go.
make sure that everybody.
There we go.
All right, we're live now. Okay.
Yay.
Hey. All right, so welcome.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today?
Oh,
Good. How are you?
How are you? I'm fantastic.
Great.
Here live on
Sunday, guys.
YouTube.
just give me 1 second. I think I have an echo happening.
All right.
Turn
Make
this
sure
on.
that we have everybody in. Is it not showing up on your screen, too? Yeah. Oh, I've got the live. There. We want to make sure that everybody.
There we go. Okay. Technical difficulties.
All good.
All right, so I just had to find out that I had to actually mute the live stream off of YouTube because I have YouTube playing at the same time to make sure it's working. And at the same time, which I just learned that you gotta mute that. All right, so that's muted. So we'll start again. Good morning, just tea with me.
Good morning.
And,
Good morning.
before we get started, I just want to introduce my wonderful panel. So we have Candace Paulson, who is an educator and a choreographer, as well as a group fitness instructor. We have Melissa Mizuko, who is a group fitness instructor, mom extraordinaire. And we have Steven Seninen, sorry, I mispronounced your name, Steve, sorry. Steven.
That's okay.
Who is a group fitness instructor and a fantastic live lip syncer. You must check his concert.
Love it.
So fantastic panel. I'm so excited that you guys have accepted my invitation. We have a lot of tea to spill. And particularly since this whole thing started, we know that the coronavirus right now is on the talk of everybody's lips. It's affecting everybody. It has affected pretty much all industries. But I wanted to come from the perspective of the fitness industry because these shutdowns have impacted us. And there's a lot of information out there that's been uplifting and fantastic. But I also wanted to come from it from a pragmatic view of like, what are we going to do? So the topic today is gym shutdowns. Lord have mercy, are we going to make it? and really how we can
Hope so.
not end up homeless as a result
Right.
of the situation, right? So we're going to first talk about a little bit about, first of all, just your thoughts and feelings overall. How are you guys feeling with what has happened? It's been about almost 2 weeks now since gyms have shut down. If we can just go through the panel to find out how much of this represents or how much of this impacts your livelihood and your income. So whoever wants to start.
Sure. It's been interesting and scary all at the same time. It's very weird not knowing what's going to happen. And that's pretty much where I'm at. We don't know if things are going to reopen. We don't know if we're going to get paid for anything. We don't know what's going on. And it's a little scary and worrisome about the unknown. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about yourself?
I think for me, it represents 100% of my income. So just like Candace, I'm really just trying to navigate what the next steps are because we don't know if it's a week. We know it's not a week. We don't know how many months down the road it's going to be and how this changes our career or profession, what we do. How do we transition? Is there a way to transition? Or if you're a Group X instructor to classes virtually, and how does that make money? So it's all about, just like she said, the unknown and figuring it out like every day at a time.
Yeah.
Exactly. True.
I find myself trying to get ahead of the game. And part of getting ahead of the game is having to go through those hills and valleys of like what we just discussed beforehand about, you know, fear of getting shut down on Facebook, fear of getting shut down on Instagram, trying to put people to the Zoom. I too, 100% of my income comes from servicing people outside of my house. So that is difficult because I can't leave my house at this point. And also too, depending on your clientele, will they decide to go with you on a live stream channel of some sort? But yeah, like Stephen was saying, like, we don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if the gym's going to keep paying me to be at home. I don't know if they're even going to pay me to be at home. I don't know. Like, do I start EI now, filing my taxes now as is? I bet. I don't know.
And
And
that's the problem.
yeah, and for me too, I have the fear of the kids. Like, you know,
Yep.
where's the money going to come from to pay the rent or the mortgage or the food, clothes? You know, like now I'm forced to be homeschooling because schools aren't open, and the teachers are telling me maybe mid-April,
Oh,
April, maybe May, and I have
none of us
one
know.
that's no.
None of us
I
know.
just figured that their years are right off, and my little guy who's in grade 8 going to grade 9, like,
Yeah,
I'm
nothing.
fearful, you know. So keeping it onto the fitness topic, yes, it's a very hard time for many of us, and people are like, I feel that some people are like kind of wish-washing it away, but yet we're all fighting to get to the top of that bucket. It's like we're all being crabs trying to get up there, and it's difficult because we're all trying to differentiate each other from the channels that we have, and then we're also trying to keep our own clients because now they have all these other people and things to see. That's like kid in a candy store, right?
Yeah.
And one thing, I mean, we definitely, I think all of us, and I'm sure anyone watching as well, would agree that no matter what position you're in, we're coming from the fitness industry perspective. What everyone is there's anxiety, there's stress levels, and you know, as fitness professionals, you know, our two things that we really need to focus on, as what we do in our classes, is we want to keep people safe and we want to help people to live healthier lives. Well, we really can't do that if we ourselves, it's really difficult if we ourselves are stressed out and not knowing our own futures to be able to project that. So it's a challenge that we have to, number one, take care of our own health, our own mental health, also to find out what options we have so that we can then translate that to our client base. So I really like to dig in now in terms of, first of all, finding out, okay, we got the notice. Most of us probably stopped teaching on the 13th or the 14th when there was the official state of emergency. For 2 weeks. So it's kind of like, okay, what are my options? In order to know what our options are, we have to know, for example, first of all, what is our status? Are we employees? Or are we independent contractors? So let's dig into that a little bit. So I was doing some research on the Canada.ca website. Anyone that's not from, we're broadcasting from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about relates to Canadians. But no matter where you are in the world, I would encourage you to certainly take a look at what your local laws are so that you can determine whether you're an employee or an independent contractor. And that way you'll know what rights or what provisions are available to you wherever you are. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen findings. Let me just open up this document on what I found here. Just give me 1 minute while I share my screen. All right, so can we all see this kind of very small print? Let's see if I can increase the.
There we go.
Is that better? We can all see.
Yeah.
All right, so I took this from the Employee Standards Act. It's the guide at Canada or Ontario.ca. And if you look down here where it says employee status, talks about rights of employees, right? And notice it says that the ESA, or the Employment Standards Act, applies to employees, and the ESA does not apply to independent contractors. So we really have to see, okay, where do we fall in this as well? It doesn't apply to volunteers or other individuals who are not considered employees under the ESA. An individual considered an employee may be entitled to rights such as minimum wage, overtime pay, public holidays, vacation with pay, notice of termination, as we technically are terminated from our employers, or termination pay. So it really does makes sense to sort of pay attention to find out, do we have any provisions available to us under the ESA, depending on what our
Right.
status is. Says here, under the ESA, employers are not allowed to treat employees as if they are not employees, which I kind of highlighted there as well. So scrolling down, notice it says how to tell who is an employee. So I'm just going to move on to the next page to see how to do this. So I'm not a techie person. How do we go to the next page? I'm going to find an arrow that says next page somewhere. Let me bring down my the joys of technology.
I don't see it on this page.
So let me go. Okay, I'm going to bring down my, if I do this, I can see the arrow. Come on. Is that the next page? Let's rotate.
That's rotate.
Haha. Okay, what if I do?
I have to just bring the next one up.
Yeah, let me just do this one. Page 4. All right, that works. Okay, so on the next page, we've got, so how to tell you're an employee. So this one here says that under the ESA, when at least some of the following describes the relationship, the work the individual performs is an important part of business. So I'm going to put it out to the panel. Many of us work for fitness clubs as fitness instructors or personal trainers. Is that work kind of important to the business? Right?
I'd say so.
Yeah,
I would think so. Right? Like it's a fitness club where they're to instruct people about fitness. The business decides what the individual is to do. So
by the way, the screen didn't switch.
Oh, can you see
you still have the other one? Or I have the original one.
I have the original document too, not the independent contractor document.
Let's try this again.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, so we'll go back where it says the employee under the ESA. Okay, when at least some of the following describes the relationship. So we've got the work the individual performs is an independent part of the business. Or sorry, important part of the business. Right, which I think so as fitness professionals at a fitness club.
Well, if you don't have us, you can't run those programs and you can't run the personal training. Right? Not just anyone can do it or shouldn't.
Right.
Correct. As we're all laughing at that.
I love the way she said that.
Yeah, there's some places.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think one way to look at it too is that when it says important part of the business, I also look at it as it's the main part of the business. For example, you do have businesses that have independent contractors that come in, like at the club, they have the electrician that will come in, which is important, but it's not the main part of the business. Right. It helps the business to function, but they're not, the main part of the business or the important part of the business, right?
Because we are the business.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So that's an important point. The next point is the business decides what the individual is to do. So we obviously come in and teach classes. We can't be like, today we're going to do a cooking class on how to make muffins. Like we can't really do that, right?
Right.
Well, you could.
But we tell us you're teaching TRX, you're teaching, hip hop basics. That's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Provided, of course, it's within your scope. So,
right.
The business decides how much the individual will be paid. This is the subject, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a sip to that.
Lots of tea on that one.
Yeah.
Gulp it down, baby. Gulp it down.
Right. So it's not like we can walk in. I mean, unless, again, panel, you feel free to chime in. I know any club I've worked for, they don't say, so tell us what you want. No. They usually say, this is what we pay our instructors.
Yeah, I've actually had some good experiences where the places I've worked in which they ask for a range
Right.
Of what like I believe I should be paid for based on like education, based on experience, based on like background.
Mhm.
And then it usually falls within that range.
Right.
That's my experience anyway.
I've had a bit of both. I've had that experience of discussing the range I think I should fit in, and where I fit, where I fit in with that range, and other experience was like, it's basically this, or we don't need you.
Yeah. I think over my years, I've definitely had that, but majority I've been give a range and tell me why, and we'll discuss that,
Mhm.
which has been nice. I know not everyone
Yes.
has that opportunity.
Yeah, I've experienced that as well, but I guess why I'm bringing it up in that context is in the sense that it's like with any job, like if for example somebody's going for a legal assistant or something, they will say, they will oftentimes have negotiation to say, yes, tell us what your expectations are, right? But they definitely do have a set range. They
Yeah.
can't just ask for any number, and they can't have $1 million.
Right.
Like it's like, no, this is the range that we normally pay our legal assistants or whatever the job is, and
Right.
then that person can negotiate based on their experience, their education, a range that matches, right? So it seems similar from what I'm hearing in the same situation as a fitness instructor, or at any other job, you can negotiate depending on your experience, right?
Yeah.
I think one thing I've come across too is when they're giving you the ranges, I think it's fair to ask, or okay to ask, how they came up with that range for their company. What research
For
did they
sure.
do to find that's the range that's appropriate for them? Because sometimes they will give you, I've had experiences where they've given me great feedback of we've done our analysis of the other gyms or studios in the vicinity of Bronsonsvale, just using that as an example.
Mhm.
And this is what they're paying their instructors. And other times they just kind of guessed at it. So
Yeah.
I think it's fair to ask how they came to that wage grid that
Yeah,
they're
good point.
giving you.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, for sure. Another point here it talks about is the business decides where and when the work is performed, right?
Yeah.
So again, are we able to be like, we have to go to a location, most of us, right? We have to be at that particular location,
Mhm.
whether it's in a gym environment or whether it's a specific room, what have you. They basically tell us.
Yeah.
Can we say, guys, next week, I'm not really feeling to come all the way downtown. Why don't you meet me by the park by my house?
Right.
No.
We can't do that, right? So they have control over where and when we have to do the job, right? Another thing to keep in mind here is the business provides the individual with tools, equipment, or materials to perform the work. So again, are we given the exercise equipment to work with, mats, dumbbells, whatever it is that you're doing, or if it's not equipment, the space, they provide that tells you basically you're an employee to them, right?
I've been in a situation where they haven't given me any tools. So I have to walk in with my tools, all depending on what class I'm doing. Also too, with one license that I hold, it's either myself having to pay into the company to have the material, or it's the employer themselves have to get an okay. But other than that, most of the time, other than that, there has been times where I'm trucking literally equalizers and all kinds of stuff, weights, whatever. I also ask the participants in those situations, hey, after the first class, I won't do any weights or anything, but I'll say, hey, if next time, instead of me lugging all this stuff, can you guys bring whatever you have from home? But yeah, I've been in positions where I've had to bring everything with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of parallel to, maybe you could speak on this, Candace, even as an educator. I'm sure
Yeah.
that the schools provide you so much, but then a lot of times teachers have to come with stuff that they bring, maybe that the
Yeah.
schools supply, right?
Well, in our classrooms, exactly, we buy most of the stuff. So we're not provided with, you're pretty much provided with the bare minimum. And that's pretty much at some studios and some gyms as well. You're provided the space, the music or the stereo, and then good luck.
Yeah.
Right? So same kind of like thing in the classroom. You're given the notebooks, the pencils, the erasers. If you want to snazzy it up, that's all up to you and your own money.
And then you're still considered employee to the school.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so you're not an
Yeah,
independent
and I'm a science teacher, so like to do science labs, I'm spending a lot of money.
Wow, right.
Yeah.
So that's something to take note of as well.
Yeah.
Moving on, it talks about as well that the individual cannot subcontract their work to somebody else. So it's like, okay, can you, if you're going to be away on vacation or you're sick, can you call up your cousin and have them teach? Or do you have to go with a list that they provide you of approved substitutes?
Right.
And maybe you guys can
I-
on that.
I've been put in position with a company I no longer work for where I'm not allowed to take a day off. So if I should
But-
end up, I know, if I should end up getting sick, they have like 2 reserved days where I can take that week off. Do they want me to do that? No. They want me to come in. If I'm not in the hospital, basically they wanted me to come in. There has been, as most know, I've had to take some time off. So that being said, for someone to replace me within that company, it had to be within that company, and it could be anybody. Other places that I've worked for, yes, they have a roster of who you're allowed to sub for you, and if they can't do your class that for that day, the modality changes, and they try and give heads up to all of the members. And then I've worked in places where, or I've been called to places where somebody's needed a sub, they know I can do the modality, or they know I have the license, so I walk in and I do the class for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I've personally just been given like a recommended list, but like if you can't use that, or it's like impossible, just make sure you have someone that is like around your caliber, or try and get someone around that. I mean, worst case, get who you can get, but like you're trying to get, like you said, the person who understands the modality, who understands the class, who understands your style, and can do that as well to replicate it.
Just to insert something into that, which just came to my mind, is I thought to myself, because again, if you are an independent contractor, and let's just say you're not able to find somebody to cover, question is, can you just decide to cancel the class?
I cannot.
Right. So they are in control to say you have to find, like, this is the rule kind of thing, right?
And sometimes it's whose responsibility is it to find it? Is it the instructor? Right. Is it our responsibility? Or the list they give you, do they go and call those people? Or is it our responsibility to start calling that list? If it, like Candace says, if there's a list provided, do we have to start making those calls? Or where does that responsibility lie? Sometimes that's a gray area. It's never quite explained until it happens to you.
Right.
Maybe
well,
Melissa
if you're just looking at,
yeah,
and if you're looking at this employee versus independent contractor, it's so much gray area in our industry and within the studio realm. Like it's a mix between it completely.
Absolutely.
I work at a big company that not every supervisor does the same thing. So some supervisors, they'll give us, okay, it's your responsibility to go get your sub if you need one. Then then within the same company, let's say different districts, I'll call my supervisor, say, hey, I can't come in today because of whatever, and they'll be like, okay, we'll get you the sub. So even within a company, it's really difficult because not everybody does the same protocol, which kind of
that's challenging. Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
And I think it comes back to this, that this needs to be looked at within our industry, and maybe something new created that everyone follows, because I'm pretty sure even like higher up at companies don't understand this themselves.
Yeah, because
I understand it from a business perspective of wanting to keep the service that we're providing consistent, even if it's not us. But then to what we were talking about earlier, if we're dealing with something in our lives and that's why we can't teach, and now we have the stress of trying to find somebody else, how is that assisting us in our mental health, or what we're trying to accomplish by taking the day off to take time for ourselves or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Then we've just added more stress to our life by doing that, which often is why instructors just show up and teach sick and show up and teach in any state, just because they can't deal with, many times I'm like, I can't deal with the stress of finding a sub. I'll just show up and do it. Which is that good? Right.
Ooh, that's a piece filler.
Also too, coming from a participant's perspective, your participant doesn't want anybody else but you.
No.
And
Yeah.
that's also the problem, because as a real true fitness instructor, and those of us who are really doing this industry 24/7, we have these huge ass hearts. And it's really hard for us to walk away from our clients when we know what kind of shake they want in their workout. So
Yeah.
even if, like, I would love any of you to sub for me, because I know you are all amazing. So it's me knowing you, but then also your participants wanting to make sure that you actually get someone of your caliber, and we know our industry and know who's kind of side by side to us. And I know that sounds like really shitty, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. Like, you want to give them the expectation that you walked in with, or they're walking into in your class.
Right.
I mean, I've taught a class literally in a boot, because, and I've taught old choreography so that they know the moves, but I can just direct them and keep the vibe going.
Right.
And yeah, see what you said, Stephen, like we do a lot for everybody.
Yeah.
And
But just
people
to-
are
I think-
cold, like,
I
people
think
are
it's
cold
sometimes what
participants. They
sorry.
just walk out. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
okay.
sometimes people just walk out, right?
Yeah.
And
I also
they're
think
kind of
sometimes
cold.
employers or people we work for realize that that's how we are in this industry. Like you said, people are doing this 24/7, and they kind of know we're just going to show up. They know that we're so dedicated to our members, our class participants, or whoever we're training, that we'll do whatever we can to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we probably shouldn't be there. I've been in situations where, like, maybe I shouldn't have taught, but you know.
And it's a double-edged sword, because at the same time, as much as we're doing this because we truly have passion, we also want to manage the fact that we don't want to be taken advantage of, and we also want to manage our own health. Because I've had stories where we all have a story that we've showed up, I really should not have taught that, because now I'm putting myself in further health damage, right? Right.
Exactly.
Also, you don't want to appear to be like hypocritical. We're talking about mental health and take care of your body, and we're showing up in the exact
Not
position we're
doing
saying that they, so like you said, double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we could go on forever with that particular topic, but I want to move on and get back to the ESA here. So we pretty much, I think, conclude that we generally cannot subcontract our work. We have to stick with the guidelines of the particular fitness club. There may be a few exceptions, but generally we have to go according to what approved list that they have, because generally they've had to vet the people.
Right.
They have to have credentials, they have to have their first aid CPR, and the business is responsible for vetting them. So we generally have to go along with who they vetted, most cases, right?
Yeah.
So the next point is the business has the right to suspend, dismiss, or otherwise discipline the individual. So again, as fitness instructors, if we were to show up late habitually, what would be the consequence? If we, you think about like what would happen. If nothing happens, if they can't say anything to us, then perhaps we are independent contractors. But if there's consequences, if there's like, hey, you didn't submit your first aid CPR, or you were late, or, you what happens, right? So that's something.
That's also, to me, that's a tough one, because I mean, if you're showing up late all the time, or you don't have the right credentials, and you can't prove that in any industry, I feel like there should be some sort of reprimand.
Right.
Like, and that's even going back to schools now too. Like, no one's being reprimanded for anything. Deadlines, it's like they don't exist anymore. And it's like this whole world is like, oh, whatever, let's just show up whenever. Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
There's got to be some sort of set standard that people have to abide by. That's my personal opinion anyway.
No, I agree. I mean, otherwise, like, airplanes, they take off at a certain time. You have to
Right?
get there.
And the service you're providing is, like, say it's an hour class, you're providing 60 minutes, 55 minutes, whatever. That's what the service you're providing.
Exactly.
So you should be providing the service that you're supposed to be providing, not 32 minutes, not 41 minutes. Like, sure, things
Right?
happen, but like John's saying, if you're consistently 10 minutes late, you're not providing the service. So maybe this is not the path for you, or this is not the time slot for you, or it's not saying you're a bad person. It's just, this is not working within your lifestyle. So maybe.
Right. And so somebody should tell you that, regardless of whether you're an employee or an independent contractor. The business should be like, hey,
Right.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Which I think most do. I mean, I think all of us, we're professionals. We make sure we're there on time, what have you. But I have
For
seen
sure.
situations. I know I've taken over classes for someone that has been let go because they were habitually late or they were not reliable. So it just shows you that there was a consequence to their behavior, which shows that they were an employee as opposed to an independent contractor, right?
It doesn't mean those people weren't necessarily not good and that they didn't have a following, but
Oh, no.
if you're not doing the job, then it's regardless if you're amazing at it, right? If you're not providing what you're supposed to be providing,
right,
according to what the
But I
business
still
needs you
don't-
to provide.
Yeah, but I don't understand that, Dion, because what you're saying is like that would make them an employee, but don't you fire independent contractors too? Like if a construction worker shows up and they're not doing their job,
right.
then fire them.
We're gonna actually go into that in this section here.
Okay.
So just to be clear, I hope I should disclaim at the beginning again, none of us are lawyers or anything like that. We're just reviewing the guideline here and kind of each person can ask questions to themselves. Does this apply to me? But I think what the ESA guide shows is that it's not necessarily that one of these points necessarily concludes that you're employee or contractor. You kind of have to look at it as a composite and see at least a couple of things need to apply. So would just by itself saying if somebody is consistently late and you can fire them, does that mean that they're employee or an independent contractor? Not necessarily. We have to look at the whole picture kind of thing. Right?
Okay.
So if we scroll down here, how to tell who's an independent contractor. So we know an independent contractor is someone who is in business for themselves. So we pretty much know that. And an individual may be considered an independent contractor and not covered by the ESA when at least some of the following applies. So point number one, I thought is interesting here, that the business can end the individual's contract for services, but cannot discipline the individual. I'm not quite sure what that means, but end of service, but they can't discipline them. That's something to think about. Any thoughts on that?
So
I don't know, maybe they're saying they can't suspend. Like that could be a form of discipline, I guess. But yeah, I'm not sure.
The next point was the individual, I think this is more easier to understand, has the opportunity to make a profit and has risk of losing money from the work.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that that's a bigger one. Is that when can we profit from the memberships? Do we get a commission or actually I shouldn't say commission. Commission, you're still an employee. Like if you're a sales rep and you get a commission, you're still an employee. But it's more about profit and risk. So are you taking the money in directly where you can gain a profit or lose money? I know in my situations, I'm not directly taking in money from the gym membership. So I don't have an opportunity to profit and I'm not, there's no risk for me. I mean, I show up, I teach a class, I get paid.
Right.
The only time I lose money is if I'm not there, which is not really losing money technically. It's just a matter of I haven't done the work.
Yeah. Good point.
Right. Any thoughts on that? So profit versus loss, lose of money. So again, independent contracts, they have opportunity to make a profit from directly receiving the money from the client
Individual.
or the individual, right? The second point determines how, when, or where the work is performed. So an independent contractor has full control over where they perform the service, when, and how. So again, it goes back to the point. Can we just say, hey guys, next week I'm teaching this class. It's going to be at this particular part. Meet me there.
And it's going to be taught by my cousin.
Yeah. Right. I don't think any of us can do that, right?
Right.
No.
Right. And then decide whether a subcontract of some sort, just like what you're saying, Steve, by my cousin.
Right.
Right. So again, I like this example. I'm not going to read the whole example. It's rather long, but it basically summons a woman who was a customer service rep for a business. They determined her schedule and time. They determined what she was paid. But she signed a contract that says that she's an independent contractor. So even though she signed this contract, it says here at the bottom, it does not matter that Faria signed the employment contract stating that she's an independent contractor because the facts show she is an employee.
Right.
So that's something to consider, that I know I've been given contracts to say you're an independent contractor. But the question, am I really based on the relationship an independent contractor?
I think it's sometimes, I don't know if we're going to go to this point, but sometimes you're an employee, but treated as an independent contractor. So some employers don't know how to treat employees, but they value your service as an independent contractor and follow whatever they think those rules are, even though they should be following the employee rules. So sometimes they don't even know what they're doing necessarily.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I said before, is that this document that states all this is so gray in our industry that business owners and everyone doesn't really have a grasp of it. And I think that there's so much blending between it in this industry, between us, that it needs to be relooked at, and maybe reconfigured or reworded or something, because like you're saying, Stephen, not everyone follows it equally and not everyone understands it, and everyone treats different people differently, and it's just all over the place.
Exactly.
I think too, some businesses, they use the contract as their start line, their guideline. So the guideline is your class is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 o'clock, and this is how much we're paying you, and these are expectations, so that when there is a review as an employee or maybe as a contractor, they have a piece of paper that states that these are the things that you agreed to, whether you're on contract or not, so that if, let's say, you should 10 weeks out of the 10 weeks out of the 15 weeks, you're late every single time. They're like, you know what? We like you, but due to this, our expectations, we can no longer have you part of our team. That's what I think that main contract for many people is.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I really want to drive home, so that we not get too much into the nitty gritty of all that, is a matter of understand, okay, which one are you, so that because all of us basically have been shut down in terms of our employment, now we can say, okay, well, what is available to us? Because if we're employees, then therefore these clubs have a responsibility to cover us under the ESA, because once you terminate somebody, you have to give them severance or pay in lieu of or something to that nature. So it's very important to understand which one you are, so that you can then go back and have to maybe educate them on what provisions are available. So let me just jump in now, because I'm very conscious of our time as well, because I know some of us have to wrap up soon. So once you determine that, which I know is a bit gray, but I think in some cases you can sort of tell, it's like, okay, now what, right? So I know for some of the places I'm at, they basically just said, we're closed, good luck, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And others are like, we'll cover you at least for a couple of weeks, which is an ESA guideline. So once you understand that, I just want to kind of go through a few things that you have as an option. So if you know you're an employee, or if you need to consult with a lawyer to double check, then you can go back to the employer and ask them, like, are you going to cover me for how long, or what options are available to me? If that doesn't work, the government has done some excellent work. I'm so happy to be Canadian and proud to be Canadian, because our government is holding it down. Like,
they're doing some good stuff.
We see the EI, a lot of the restrictions have been lifted, so there's no more 1 week waiting period, so you can apply for EI. It may not be a ton of money, but at least something's coming in, as opposed to zero. There's also, they're waiving the need to have a medical certificate to access EI. Understanding the situation, I was looking through the list here. Again, I encourage people to go through it in detail, but I just want to kind of highlight some of the good points. It also applies not just if you yourself are out of work, but if you have to stay home to help someone who's being quarantined due to COVID-19, children, family members, they also are including that as well.
Yeah.
I thought what was kind of interesting too, because kind of like, not only where do I access income, but like, what do I do with my bills? I mean, hey, the first of the month is Wednesday. A lot of us have rent to pay. So
yeah.
It's cool that the government has negotiated with some of the banks to be able to provide some kind of leeway. So like, they're doing, some banks are offering like a 6-month payment deferral for mortgages. I've also heard that some student loans, they're also saying, hey, you can hold your off paying without interest as well for a little while.
Oh, I wish.
Some of them are, so check it out. Check it out.
So
I don't think I count anymore.
with regards to the mortgage deferrals, it's on a case by case basis. So everybody has to call. It's very difficult to get to call with your bank now, but you have to call because it's not automatic. And credit cards, you can do some. Once again, you can call and they'll look at stuff based on your situation. For rent, you have to call your property manager and they'll do it all. It's all case by case. There was one property. I won't mention them here, but they did a really good thing in Toronto. They used, they have like 7 buildings or something in Toronto. They used all the residents' last month's rent. No, hey, you pay first and last month's rent when you move in. They're using that towards their April rent. And then they'll discuss, I guess, going further. And they provided all their residents with a $100 grocery gift card, and they donated quite a substantial amount of money to COVID-19 relief fund. Yeah.
Nice.
Man, I wish I lived in that building.
I now know the name of that property management company, and if I had to move, I'd probably look for one of their properties. That was a really good call on their part. It followed a good business model for them. They're not really losing money because the money's sitting there for them, and it's helping their residents out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Because honestly, especially if you've been paying rent for 10, 15 years, considering the situation that we're all in, I think it only makes sense. It's only humane to say, you know what, call your landlord, try to negotiate, and they should be at least understanding to say, we understand, if we can hold the rent or half a rent or something, like
do something,
be willing to help out. Like make sure you at least ask. You don't know what it's going to happen, but at least ask, right? And then,
agreed. Yeah.
For sure. Other things too, this is something to keep in mind too. So if you approach a business that's saying, sorry, we consider you as an independent contractor, the government also is giving, they're proposing to provide eligible small business owners a temporary wage subsidy. So again, look into that. You can let them know, hey, the government is going to be helping out some businesses. So perhaps your studio can hold me over for a little while because the government is offering you some subsidies. So definitely check into that as well.
I think some of us qualify the CERP. I don't know if you're going to talk about that as well. The Canadian Emergency Relief Program.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm going to go into that, but check that out too. Like anything you can check out, go online, see what you have available to you. We just want to kind of just put things out there to say, hey, let's not feel that we're distraught. Like there are options, there are ways that we can get some income from the government. So I want to just pivot to other ways. What are some other ways that we can help to just keep ourselves afloat and not end up homeless, right? So
I think go ahead.
So I was going to jump into online training. So right now it just seems like a bazillion people are doing online live streams, and it's great that you want to share and you want to help people, but again, it comes down to, okay, how is this going to help you to carry you through and get the bills paid, all right? So I just want to get your thoughts on just the whole concept of virtual classes, live streaming. What are you guys' thoughts on doing these things?
I think
go
ahead, Candace. Okay.
I was going to say, in this situation, because we're all stuck at home, I feel like this is the only option for people to do, is some sort of virtual something, right? Because what else can you do when you can't leave? Mm-hmm. And that's everyone. And we're lucky enough to have this sort of tool that we can still reach everyone essentially, and probably even more people now than what you were able to do in just the one studio. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely an interesting tool, but there's a lot of things that come with it.
I think it's also managing the free with the paid, since what we have, there's value to what we do. So I see some instructors have approached it like 2 weeks, they have free virtual, free Zoom, depending on what media or medium you're going to use. And I think that helps get your audience familiar and comfortable with doing that type of programming. But they've also indicated after the 2 weeks, this is the the sales model for it. And if you want to continue, I think that's fair to do. I don't really want to subscribe to doing this for free for weeks on end, because I've had request upon request. I've held off because I'm trying to figure it out on my end, because I don't want to present it as it's going to be free forever or whatever, right? And I think people who follow us and people who come to our classes will also appreciate the fact that this is our livelihood, and they recognize that we're not getting paid, and they will pay. So I don't think it's a bad ask, since it's our job.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then it comes into the difficult part, whereas if they're paying for a membership at a gym where they could do those classes for free, now they have to pay, like, are they still having to pay that membership monthly, or does
Correct.
that end so that they can now pay you? Or so from their perspective, I think that's going to be the issue that they're trying to distinguish between.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's not, they're paying a membership to have access to the classes. So it's not, free, but they're,
For sure.
I see what you're saying, like in a sense of like, okay, is that gym going to freeze their membership so that they're able to have money to pay for these additional classes? Because I mean, they're in the same situation in many cases. Not everybody is being paid by their employees, so their employer. So we want to give and take and understand that we're all in a difficult situation. How can we come together in a way that's fair for everybody? But I'm going to say, because I know I got into a bit of an online battle with somebody on my Facebook page, but it's all good. I'm always getting into
battling it out.
But I've enjoyed that tea. It was a big glass. It's still great.
But my thing is that I kind of put something out there. I put a little thing saying, what, these free live streaming classes. Okay, I get it. I get that. We're antsy. We want to connect with people. We want to connect with many people that come to our classes. But understand that this is a business, right? And I do remember 20 years ago, dating myself, there was a nice little friendly company called Napster. And they wanted to spread music love, right?
Yeah.
And look what happened to the music industry. You talk to any musician today, and they'll tell you how Napster negatively impacted the business. And it was thanks really to Steve Jobs, who created iTunes. Well, I don't know if he created iTunes, but he, allowed iTunes to be accessible and, allow people to be able to pay for a song so that these musicians could get paid, as opposed to just free, sharing their music. So I'm just concerned. Like, I get the people that are saying, oh, I want to spread fitness love, and I get that. But then what does it do long term to our industry? If people can just say, well, why should I ever pay? What does it say about the quality of what we're delivering, or about the knowledge and expertise if it's just, I don't have to pay for it? So it's just a matter of like thinking, okay, maybe for yourself, you may think, I'm just doing this, I want to spread love, whatever. Okay, but then how does that impact the next instructor next to you and the industry, as to the rest of us having the ability to be able to live?
Yeah.
This has been a 2-week struggle for me. As I spoke to you about it too, Dion, like I've been speaking to everybody about it. And everybody's like, no, Melissa, you got to get people to pay. And I get it. And I know a whole bunch of people that I know have been laid off. So it's hard for my heart to say, hey, $5, can you afford it? I'm having a hard time taking people from the lives to those Zoom rooms, so that not that I want to exclude anybody, but also too, the Instagram and the Facebook that we're using is going to start tearing us down because of the competition that's going on. Also, the music content that there's a couple of times where I was stopped because of copyright. So there are platforms for us to make an online business with. Yes. It's you as the instructor. I think that it's like, are you worth it? Yes, you are worth it. And also to your audience has to feel the value, I guess, too. And I mean, do I want to charge? Yes. I've been doing like free live streams in order to try and transition people into Zoom. Right now it's backfiring on me because nobody's going to the Zoom. But as of next week, I don't want to lose my Facebook account, and I don't want to lose my Instagram account. So I will be telling everybody, hey, if you do want all of this content, you got to come with me to Zoom, pay what you can. And so that those who can pay will pay.
You know what, too, is that you don't have to. I mean, Natalie Lacombe wrote an excellent article about you don't have to do virtual classes. So it doesn't mean that we just like a lot of people are doing it, but doesn't mean that you have to do it. Sometimes it's a matter of sitting down and figuring, okay, we're in new waters right now. So I suppose that this is a crazy time. What are some other ideas or ways I can do something, right? So sometimes it's just sitting down and just trying to figure out another idea. It doesn't have to be, that particular way. So
The one thing I was like
Oh.
interested about virtual, and I tried to learn a bit more, is like, how does our insurance cover us, or what are the liabilities with this? Which, because it's new territory, and my insurance provider didn't quite. It doesn't for me, and they're like, we're not even sure if any insurance does cover this or how this even works now.
That's probably not, right? Because it's like you said, new territory, and like everyone's figuring something out because no one knows what to do.
Right.
No one has prepared for something like this. And so even the high up industries and the high up like business people are kind of like, okay, well, hey boss, what do I do? And that boss is like, I don't know, what do I do?
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of in the same waters.
But you made sorry, I just wanted to speak to Stephen's point. Steve's point is that he made a good point about, the liability. Like, for example, I've seen a few YouTube videos where you have somebody leading a class, on ground while people are on their balconies. And at first I'm like, oh, that's sweet. But wait a second. Is this really safe? Like trying to tell people, here, let's do a handstand on your balcony, do some yoga pose. Could they fall off the balcony? Like, like, is this, we have to think beyond just, oh, it's cool at the time, but like think, okay, wait a second, is this really a good idea to be leading classes in an area that maybe could be unsafe for them, right?
Also, the line between fitness enthusiast and fitness professional is completely blurred now. So like you're saying, it's great, you want to like spread fitness love and stuff, but like we're all qualified to do this. And I don't know where else my point's going with that. That was just my point. If you guys want to talk about it.
No, but it's important when it comes to the human body that people who are leading health and fitness have an education about the human body and how it works and how you need to perform, and maybe the adaptations for different ages or injuries or health levels. And you need to be able to show and adapt that. And not everyone can do that because they don't understand the human body if they don't have the qualifications or the education. So totally understandable what you're saying.
Absolutely. There's some there's some licenses or companies right now that are going into the fact of having their own platform. So that we haven't, so that our students have access to that versus being on a Zoom or whatever, but it's going to be interesting how they're going to transition that, right? And have us use that and force people to pay for us to be on this platform.
Like I said, go Dion.
I'm gonna bring you on this, Candace, because actually this has been going on for some time. I know for sure you and I spoke about this, Candace. There have been companies out there that offered this a long time ago, where they would film part of our classes, and for those that couldn't make it into the studio, then they would have a login and they would do that. So this has been done for a while. People just prefer the more face-to-face option.
Exactly.
But I know I was working for a company, I won't say the name, but they would film me, and then they would they had like a library of videos. It was myself, there was many instructors, not just me, but they had like a library of videos. You could just pay a monthly fee and they could chime in, but it didn't quite work out because people it's either people buy the videos or they want to come to the gym and be live. So, but again, we're in new waters, so things may change, but this kind of transition to the last thing I want to talk about before we close off today is the question of how do we stay connected to the audience when the gyms are asking us, for example, to produce videos and live streaming for them. I don't know about you guys, but I've been getting so many requests of gyms saying, hey Dion, can you just make a 20-minute video for us? And I'm thinking, it's not that simple. Right. Because if you're paying me for a 1 hour class, there's a whole bunch of different skills, this different skill set, different requirement set for me showing up to teach a class than to create a video. And if any of you,
because now we're video producers as well.
Oh
yeah.
Editors, music editors.
That's a different wage grid. I
don't know if that's affordable anymore.
Really,
$100 an hour.
Even that. I mean, how many times have you had to take a selfie? Like 6 times, And how, like, think about it. Think about how long it took you to take the picture, add your filters. How long did that take compared to a whole video?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I can say last night I went on Canva and it took me 25 minutes to perfectly set everything up, the perfect picture, perfect this, perfect that, and so that I was comfortable with it. And that's the other thing too, is that all of us become perfectionists and all that kind of stuff. Like our creative juices start to go. So projects that we think are going to take us 5 minutes take us 25,
Right.
half an hour, an hour. Even the fact of music, like all of us are musically inclined, so like just a playlist alone could take us an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then goes back, are we being, are we being fairly compensated for our time? Right.
Mhm.
Because I know personally, many of you have known, I've produced many different events. And whenever I approached video production companies, and said, hey, can you do a video
Ooh,
video for me?
Mm.
ridiculous.
They're quoting me $5,000.
Yeah.
I'm asking
Easy.
for a
Easy.
1 minute
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1
And
minute.
that's like super ridiculous.
Now, of
But
course,
Yeah.
they have expensive equipment, but I get it. Like, I get it that they're coming in, they're filming the entire event. They have to go through editing and they have to go through, the post editing is crazy. So I understand. So it's like, sure, we don't have the fancy equipment, but still we're investing time and effort. And is it fair to offer somebody 30 to 40 bucks to make a video for you? you know,
yeah.
so that's something that we kind of have to explore as well. And it's not to discredit any of the clubs or the fitness centers at all, but
Fair.
it's
Yeah.
just a matter of how can we be fair? How can we meet the needs and the goals that we're trying to achieve, and also be fair for everybody involved, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky enough to have a studio that seems to be doing a great job at that and offering good compensation. So yay. But I know not everyone's in that situation. So I'm just fortunate that I am and can offer that to the clients. But at the same time, they don't know if it's going to go well, right? Like they don't know if anyone's even going to look at it or use it or anything.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. So basically, I just want to kind of close out by just, kind of touching on a few of the points that we mentioned. So, we started off saying independent contractors versus employees, where do we lie? I mean, there's a lot of questions in gray areas, but I just encourage people to go through the ESA guide, ask the questions, certainly consult with a lawyer if you need to as well. But I think,
And also don't be afraid to ask the question as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And also keep in mind, just because they say that you're an independent contractor doesn't mean that you are, because technically it's in their interest that you're an independent contractor. It's in their interest to say, sorry, figure it out on your own, as opposed to having responsibility to take care of us, for at least a couple of weeks, right? So, and it's not to say that they don't have the intention of wanting to help, but sometimes they just don't have the knowledge and understanding.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, reviewing that, also exploring the fact that we have options with the government. So EI, we can apply for help case by case through financial institutions. So ask your bank, can we defer? Can we make an arrangement? Kind of work things out with your bills. Understand that there's some provisions for small businesses as well. So if you're approaching that club that says, sorry, we can't pay you, letting them know, hey, did you know that the government is offering some subsidies, right? So have that conversation. We talked about online training, live streaming versus video conferencing. That's another option. But keeping in mind as well that, you offer something for free. Every action has a reaction. So, I personally believe that I like the trial option, like, sure, try this for a bit, but then there is a cost associated with it, as opposed to catch me every day here at this time. I find that's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
So it's, but again, each individual has to make their decision in that respect. We talked a bit about making videos for clubs that are asking of us, having to weigh the time and the effort that you're putting in, and do you have this expertise to be a video producer and film director all of a sudden? So you gotta weigh all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So any last words that we all want to maybe mention about Are we gonna make it?
I think we'll make it, but just always make sure we're taking care of ourselves as well,
Yeah.
mentally as first before because this is all uncharted territories, and it can be. I will be honest. I had stressful and anxiety-filled moments, like what is going to happen. Then have to bring myself back to the practice I teach my other people, like just to breath. Maybe just bring yourself back to breath when you're losing your mind, which is going to happen probably once a day, possibly, right? But first and foremost, maybe try to take care of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and remember that we're all in the same boat. Like we're all here, regardless of what your industry is right now. Everyone's feeling this. So we're all in, like you said, uncharted territories. No one knows what's happening. No one knows what's coming next. So take it day by day and support one another and stay positive.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I totally agree with all of that. Like, just take a breath, take care of you, take care of, like, maybe get creative. Maybe you forgot about a hobby that you now have time to do, and maybe that could be your next source of income, and let everything out kind of like take its course. Get educated, maybe pick up a book that you're supposed to read. I know I have a whole tower of books that, I picked up. So yeah, one step at a time.
Yeah.
So I just want to close out by thanking everybody for coming on today. I really appreciate your insight and your thoughts. And again, great points that we've all made. And again, I believe we're going to make it through. We are going to overcome this. We do have a great support system in our government. We have each other, which is so important as well. And, reach out, connect. So it's physical distancing, not social distancing, not social isolation. So if you're feeling a bit down, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody like, and then I'm good now.
Or check out my lip sync videos at Diva Steve on Instagram.
Yes, please plug yourself. So definitely let everybody know.
Nice.
To this your various social media tags. Please let everybody know. Go ahead, Candice.
Sorry. For Instagram, TikTok, all those things, you can find me at rhythm_fit.
Okay. I'm under for Instagram, I'm under M_ZUCCO, half of my last name, or you can catch me at Heart HEARTNSOLE fit. That's Instagram and also Facebook.
My Instagram, Twitter, TikTok is all Diva Steve. Diva as in DIVA, Steve. And you can find me by my full name on Facebook. So Stephen, STEPHEN, and my last name, SINANAN.
Wonderful.
And they all lead back to one another. So
I'll provide the links at the end of this broadcast in the comment section, because if you're like me, it's hard to memorize that. So I'll put everything in.
Awesome.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for spilling the tea with Dee. Please keep in mind, have yourself a positive day, and don't be afraid to spill some tea with some friends at any time. Have a great day.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dion, for organizing. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.